Welcome, everyone, to the April 9th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. I call this meeting to order. Please join us in our customary moment of silence. Thank you. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brings us to our first round of public comment. If anybody has any comment, please state your name and where you live.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Keeley. I live at 63 Alfred's Court in Delancey Court, right across the street. And I'm only here to respectfully request that the board take into account the suggestion we made back in February regarding the development of the land at 413 Durham Road to time the signals in such a manner to allow a calming effect on the traffic, especially during the peak hours between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I think it would be a very economical and safety effective way of regulating the traffic to allow not only our residents to make left-hand turns to go south on Durham Road, but also to allow the through traffic on 413, which would otherwise be blocked from sight because of a line of traffic making left-hand turns into the new site. So I please, when you are considering this proposal that's on item 7 tonight, please take that into account and try to get an answer from PennDOT. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, everyone. Charles Foyer, Newtown Walk. And I just wanted to bring up an item from last week whereby the township engineer had expressed several meetings ago that they'd be providing a timeline for the crossing upgrade at Tara and Silo Drive, and all indicators are that no timeline has been provided. I'm not even sure if a letter to proceed has been issued for it, but I'd like to know the answer to that question I brought up the last meeting. And another item which may require a changing of the minutes is with regard to the discussion and the sidewalk and curb project, which were considered or as part of the crosswalk upgrade. That project was basically discussed last week and scuttled. And a statement was made by one of the board members that the Newtown Cemetery didn't want a sidewalk or a curb. And interestingly, I received a phone call from Mr. Richard Tomlinson, who is president of the Newtown Cemetery Association today. And he said, I don't know who they talked to, but that's not true. I am wholeheartedly in favor of that. He said, I used to cut the grass there when I was a kid, and I was afraid I was going to get hit by a car and end up on the other side of the hedge in the family plot. Quote. So it brings to mind that whole discussion last week about this project when it's been discussed, we went out and we got $384,000 approved by PennDOT to be used for pedestrian safety and that specific project. And Mr. Tomlinson said to me, well, what was the estimate for the work? And I said, they stopped it before we got the estimate for that section. He said, well, that doesn't seem to make sense. And I said, I'll pass your words along. So perhaps the minutes need to be changed from last week. Also, like an update on the Tara Boulevard and Silo crosswalks. And I'd also like reconsideration for this project for the permanent sidewalk and curb to be brought up again. And I would ask that, and I actually offered Mr. Tomlinson, I said, I believe our township engineer has done concept work in order to come up with estimates and was supposed to come up with an estimate for specifically the section from the Tara crosswalk to the borough line. And he said, yeah, they have a nice sidewalk there. It should be continued. It should have been when they put the road in. And so another request I guess I'm making, because I offered and he accepted that I show him the concept drawings that we've been told have been created for that. And I'd like to show them to him because he's very interested in knowing how that project would proceed. He said, you really need an accurate estimate to know where you come up with the 30%. And I said, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I'd like, I guess as a right-to-know request for any and all work that's been done for the sidewalk and curb project up to this point, so that I can show Mr. Tomlinson and anyone else that uses the Newtown Trail who's interested in this pedestrian safety issue being addressed. Thanks very much.
I just want to respond to that. I have a note from the custodians of the cemetery. I didn't bring it with me, I forgot it, but their note says exactly the opposite of what you just said. I don't know who Mr. Tomlinson is, but I'll certainly find out. But I have a different contact that said something else, wrote us a note in support of what they thought, and I will email it to you and the rest of the board.
Sorry, you got a note from the custodian regarding what exactly?
About the sidewalk issue in
About
front.
who owns the property?
No, about they're wanting to keep it as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie Mahalik, Newtown Walk. I want to ask about the Sunoco pipeline, but before I go into that, why would they want to keep it as it is when it's a dangerous section of the road? What were their reasons to keep it as is?
This is not a question and answer ceremony.
Maybe to
Portion.
get more residents, I don't know.
Yeah,
What'd you say?
this is not a question
Maybe
and
to
answer
get more
period.
residents.
But again, that note will be provided for everybody to see. They like the way it looks right now. They've never had any problem with anybody being injured. That's all I'll say at the moment.
Okay, I respect that. Again, I'm going to say once the light is put in that we've advocated for almost 3 years, I do see that, like what I mentioned the last time, what happened with my daughter, that if a car is stopped and a car is coming from either direction and tries to stop and they have to swerve out of the way, anyone in that sidewalk, even my neighbor Ed with his dog, they're going to be in trouble. So just something to consider, because I think people will be stopping more once we install the light, which is what they should be doing. And I don't think, again, depending on the time of day with the glare, it's that people are disregarding it. I honestly think people don't anticipate or see it. Moving on to the Sunoco pipeline, I've seen Sunoco trucks around the area within the last week. One was on Linton Hill Road in Newtown Township, and the other today I saw on Eagle Road. So I was just wondering if there was going to be an update as to what they're doing in Newtown. Thank you.
Charles Foyer again. I apologize. Mr. Richard Tomlinson is president of the Newtown Cemetery Association. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay, moving on. We have no committee reports, so I'll give my report. As far as the Sunoco pipeline, we're waiting on a report that Upper Makefield is going to get about the last 10 years of leaks in the pipeline that might or might not include Newtown Township. We will find out. They're waiting for that report, and they will pass it on to us as soon as they have it. And yes, you have seen trucks, because we're making sure that the pipeline is in good shape in Newtown Township. That's all I have.
I only have one thing, and that's in a response about the pipeline. I would add that the Newtown Artesian Water Company has some information about pipeline and clean water testing on their website. That's all I have.
Yes, thank you. Yesterday, I attended the Sewer Authority meeting. Lots of issues were discussed, like what's going to happen with the land that they now own since they stopped the planning for the sewer plant. There was an expert from the group that was opposed to this talking about various technical issues that I did not understand, sort of one-in-one. And for infiltration and inflow, it's not the Bob Dylan song. And EDUs, and there was a little confusion about EDUs, whether there are EDUs that are available to Newtown or not, whether there is a ban or not. I think Ms. Snyder said the ban is still a ban in effect. I'm not sure what's happening with that. I had a question about the manhole covers sinking in North Sycamore Street, and I was told that they're not sinking, the asphalt is heaving, and the only time that that's going to be repaired, but I just heard from Ms. Snyder that they may be working on addressing that issue. They also they also elected a right-to-know open records officer, probably the first in history because of all the requests that they're getting for information. And I'd like to thank Jerry Shankman for being a great chairperson and allowing residents to sit through the entire agenda without throwing them out because of a, what do you call it, committee meeting? Executive session. He put the executive session at the end of the agenda. Last time I was there, they threw everybody out for an hour. And so I really appreciate that, although one member of the board from the borough made a snide comment to me while I was making my comment, and I really didn't appreciate it. Show no respect, no respect. Anyway, the other thing I've been doing is talking to residents of homeowners associations. For example, my homeowners association, Country Bend, had an annual meeting on April 2nd, and they expressed concerns, a lot of concerns about speeding through the neighborhood. The same was true of Woods of Saxony residents telling me, that one of the board members, about speeding through their neighborhood. And I think these two developments are kind of unique in that they are used to access, people cut through these developments. One cuts through Country Bend to get to Linton Hill Road. and through Woods of Saxony to get to Washington Crossing Road. And I don't think there's any other development that has that kind of issue. So these people are they're not residents, they're not concerned about residents. They come speeding through narrow streets where pedestrians are crossing. So, I just thought they're asking various questions about what can be done. I discussed this with Chief Hearn, and maybe he'll have some comments in his presentation. The last thing is I attended the hands-off demonstration this past Saturday, April 4th, where I wore my Make America's Constitution King hat. And there was actually, I met a woman who had a T-shirt that said, politicians in diapers need to be changed often for the same reason. And I would just note that there'll be 2 new members for the Board of Supervisors here. So I encourage people to go out and vote vote often. No, I'm kidding. Just vote once, please. Thank you. That's it for me.
Mr. Calabro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to save this for the solicitor's report, but since we were discussing a little bit about the Sunoco pipeline, I know that Upper Makefield has filed a class action suit. I don't know if the township is involved, but if they are involved, I would like for the solicitor to find out if we can also get in on this class action lawsuit. We've done it in the past with the opioids issue. We joined a lot of other, what would you call them, plaintiffs in regards to a lawsuit. So I think that since the pipeline does go through Newtown Township and, our neighboring township of Upper Makefield is involved and they are filing a class action suit, if we could also get in on that. I hate to say the term the more the merrier, but I think the power is in the numbers, and if we get involved in that, maybe it'll say something to Sunoco. Also, I don't know if this is relevant, but I know that Sunoco pipeline produces, I guess, I don't know if the correct word is gas or fuel or jet fuel, but I'm curious as to what airlines use the Sunoco jet fuel, because I think they should be boycotted and maybe know that the jet fuel that they're getting is harming children that are drinking this water, not only children but adults. So I'm just wondering if we could find out any information on if there's any particular airlines that are using this Sunoco, because I do think that hit them in the pocketbook and they'll pay attention, and they won't just roll over us like a steamroller. So I'm throwing that to you, Mr. Sander, if you could find out this information for me.
Certainly, Mr.
That would be
Calabro.
great.
I can reply to that. I asked the Upper Makefield supervisors about that. They are not party to the lawsuit. The residents have the lawsuit.
Well, then
and
I would
not
like the township, our township, to be party, because if they're neglecting their constituents by not being a party to that, I think that's shameful. So I think that if this township were to be party to that lawsuit, that would maybe wake up the Upper Makefield Board of Supervisors to do something.
I think they're doing everything they can, and I'm in constant contact with them, and they're having at least 2 or sometimes 3 meetings a week with their residents, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and that is why I asked them.
I don't mean to debate this with you, but just 2 seconds ago, you said that they weren't involved.
No,
And now
I
you-
said
now
they're
you're telling
having
me-
meetings with the residents about
Well,
this to
meetings
keep
with the
them
residents,
informed.
I know they have meetings with the residents, but they're not involved with this lawsuit, of which they should be.
No, but Sunoco is coming to those meetings and making
And doing
reports
nothing,
in
and
front of
doing nothing.
everybody.
I work with someone who lives on Mount Airy Road, and Sunoco just keeps blowing smoke. So unless something is done, and I really, honestly, I don't care about the Upper Makefield supervisors. They should be doing something, and they're not, except having conversations, and there's nothing being accomplished by that. I think we set the precedent here, and we go ahead as an outside township, which also has the pipeline going through our township, and maybe we should get in on this class action suit.
There's no harm in you taking a look? Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes of 2 meetings and bill payments? So may I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, took a look at the March 12th minutes. They still don't reflect Ms. Mihalik's comments. Didn't look like it was updated. I did go back to the videotape on YouTube and double check to make sure it wasn't, my recollection was wrong.
I thought I saw it in our packet.
Yeah, she did speak at both meetings, the 26th and the 12th. The 26th looked accurate. The 12th still didn't have the comments. No.
Yeah.
I just, the one I opened up today didn't have it. The 12th we're talking about.
I thought I saw it. I looked for it.
I saw it too.
No, the minutes are there. I didn't see her comments in the second session.
Valerie Mihalik of Newtown spoke of the Sunoco pipeline leak meeting and any possible impact on Newtown.
Okay, now I'm looking.
Excuse us while we search.
Okay, okay, I do see it. My apologies then. I don't know what I was looking at.
No problem.
Please forgive me.
No
No
problem.
problem. Okay, moving on to land development. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Any comments from the public? Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Now moving on to land development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we have Durham Investment LP bringing a preliminary and final land development plan before the board for its consideration and action this evening. Representing the applicant is Ed Murphy, Esquire. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening. Over a year ago, last winter, my client submitted a conditional use application seeking to authorize the development of the property next door to your basin for a 10,000 square foot daycare and a 6,600 square foot general office / medical office building. The normal reviews, including reviews by your planning commission and this body, took place in the winter and spring of last year. And a year ago this week, this board did approve a conditional use application for that project. What's happened in the intervening year is the formal preliminaries, final land development plans, engineered plans have been prepared, submitted, and gone through the various review cycles with your consultants both inside and outside the township. And most recently, we appeared at your planning commission and received a favorable recommendation of approval, which brings us here tonight. The review letters are not of consequence. All or will comply. We took the opportunity to revise and resubmit the plans once so that we have a much shorter review letter, and all those are will comply items. Probably most notably, because it's been the principal topic of conversation, we have now, since the last time we appeared in front of this board, received from PennDOT a PennDOT permit for the proposed access, ingress and egress on Durham Road. So a lot of question, comment had been raised previously, at the conditional use and at the land development stage, commenting about whether or not a PennDOT permit would be issued. We've consulted with your staff, your township engineer, and the on-staff traffic consultant, as well as PennDOT, and we now have the PennDOT permit that hopefully would foreclose the need for any further conversation about what would be happening out on the road. So, with that as background, your solicitor had prepared and circulated in advance, as a courtesy, a copy of a draft of the approval resolution, which includes the normal typical conditions for development financial security agreements. It also includes the amount of the traffic impact fee that would be due and payable. It includes a reference to the park and recreation fee that would be due and payable. And I advised your administration and Dave earlier that the conditions outlined in that approval resolution are acceptable to the applicant. So I'm not sure what other background we need to provide, but that's basically where we stand tonight, and we are, in fact, looking for a preliminary as final approval to move the project forward, subject to, as you mentioned previously, obtaining the necessary sewer capacity for the project. So that's where we're at.
Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy from the board?
Yes, you just mentioned sewer capacity. Is that what we refer to as EDU?
Yes.
I thought there was no EDUs available for further development in Newtown. Is that true?
We are told, what I heard you say earlier is what we understand, that at present, the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority is not allocated any new EDUs of sewer capacity for projects in the borough or the township. But we still have to apply. We need to get on a list called the Connection Management Plan, so that as and when sewer capacity is reallocated, we would be in line to hopefully get it.
How many EDUs do you require?
We're not sure. Depends on who and how that capacity number is configured. It could be as few as 1. It could be as many as 12 or 13. We don't know, because the magicians in Doylestown have yet to wave their magic wand to tell us what that is.
Well, a dwelling unit, let's just say you have 2 dwelling units, basically. You have a daycare center and a medical center, correct?
Right.
Both have, I guess, bathrooms.
Oh, yeah. There's a formula, and the way
So
it
I
has
don't
historically
understand why-
worked, John, is that you provide the reviewing authority with flow data and compare that actual flow data to the model that they use to otherwise calculate EDUs. There's
Okay.
a big disparity between the model and what we can demonstrate is actually used.
Have
So
you provided the flow data?
we are in the process of, we've provided to the authority, but we're in the process of going through the other channels that we're learning about just today to get reaction to that.
What does the flow data show? I mean, what are you looking at?
1.
How much water is used?
We have provided comparable data from other daycare centers that of a similar size that have a similar number of kids, and we've come up with a number that is very small as opposed to the model that would otherwise be used.
So you cannot do anything until you get approval for whatever number of EDUs you need, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so why are we here tonight if you don't have all that
Well, I'm
information?
entitled to get a plan approval, and absent having a plan approved, that affects your ability to acquire EDUs when they become available. So
I
it's
see.
critical for us to get in the queue with an approved plan.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
So now they would be on the list of,
What's called the CMP list, Connection
Correct.
Management Plan.
yes.
So I guess it's first come, first serve on this list?
I don't know. That's the magicians in Doylestown. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if it's objective or subjective.
You mean,
But what I
you
do
mean
know,
money under the table?
but
that
what I
kind of
do
thing?
know is absent a plan approval, we can't even compete and argue for that capacity. So,
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I had some questions about the SALDO waivers. Have they been decided? Do we get to have some input on that?
Well, you're going to consider and approve them, but they have been reviewed and previously recommended by staff and by your planning commission, yes.
So,
But ultimately, it's your call for those.
can I just ask a couple of questions about them? I know the easy one would be the plant species. Are they native plants that you want to change?
Well, I think
to?
that's the issue. I think Leanna can speak to that, or Dave can, but that's the question. And I
Okay.
think we want to do what your staff recommends, but that's inconsistent with the regulations today. Correct,
Okay, so-
Leanna?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it might be helpful if you could run through the waiver requests and
Okay.
maybe what the response would be, just so that the
Quick, do
board's
it.
aware.
Dennis, you want us to run through the?
Yes, please.
Okay. Kevin Riley from the builders, the property owner, is here, and he can run through quickly the waivers, and if you need to see the plan, Dennis, to show where it is, but the plant species one, I think, is pretty simple, so.
Yeah, I thought that was an
Okay,
easy.
just to confirm, we want to do what the township staff has recommended,
Right.
which is that variance with your
Okay.
current standard for plants.
So I might be able to approve the plan based on the fact that our professionals will review with you
Correct.
and
Yeah, yeah,
work
correct.
it out. Okay, but I'd still like to listen to the other three
Right.
or four.
Good evening.
Yeah.
There are 4 requested waivers. The first is for the deceleration length of the turning lanes out on Durham Road. Those are dictated by PennDOT, and what the township's ordinance asks for longer deceleration lanes, but that's contradictory to what PennDOT wants. So PennDOT reviewed our plans, and they approved our deceleration lengths based on the traffic study.
And let's do them one at a time, Leanna, just confirm, if you would, whether that's accurate.
Yep, that's accurate.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're complying with what PennDOT wants. Your ordinance standard is slightly different than PennDOT's.
Okay, that's a good explanation, I understand.
The next waiver requests that there be a fire lane adjacent to every building. I just think it's an antiquated requirement in your ordinance. We have fire hydrants and full fire suppression around the buildings. We did submit the plan to the fire marshal, and he agreed that a fire lane was not required.
So first one was PennDOT's on the decel lane. This is the fire marshal.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
That's the third one of the 4.
That
Can
was
I
the-
just ask, does that take into account whether fire engines have
Turning
are
radius.
wide enough, the lanes are wide enough for the fire engines to come in should there be a need and
It-
turn around?
It does. We have to do a fire truck turning plan, and we've provided that, and the fire marshal's approved it. The third waiver is separation distance between parking area and buildings of 20 feet. Again, we think that this is just excessive. We have curb all around the building, and we're providing a minimum of 10 feet from curb to building. We're also protecting the buildings with bumper blocks.
Okay.
And the last is the one that we touched on, which was the landscaping, where we're asking to use some native species that are not on the approved plant list, but the township consultants have agreed that they are appropriate for the project.
Okay. How about the 13 versus 9 trees?
That
Has
is,
that been
that is
done?
will comply. We are providing all trees.
Okay, great. And then the last thing I would mention, what Mr. Keeley suggested, is that something that the township would have to request PennDOT to take a look at the timing or?
Correct. That's not us, that would be PennDOT.
Okay.
I think I read in one report or another that PennDOT was willing to look at the timing of the light at North Drive, I guess. Do you know what I'm talking about? No? You do not? I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
Well, the idea that I think it was mentioning was to provide gaps in the traffic so people could get it in and out of.
I don't know if Liana was here that night. I remember that as well, Madam Chair, and I think your traffic guy said that they would go to PennDOT and ask to look at possibly retiming that North Drive light.
We did look at that because as part of the neighboring development that is going in there. There are some adjustments that are being made to that signal, and it does, account for the additional, I'm not a traffic expert, I'm speaking on behalf of them at this point, but, there's additional modifications that are being made to that signal. I will say that our office, as part of our review, we requested that gap study as part of the submission, and as part of their resubmission, they did provide that to us, and we determined that there was adequate gaps in the traffic there at that point. So we did look at that as part of their resubmission.
The light at North Drive is basically a timing situation. And how it operates now, for as long as I live there, is when there's no traffic coming in either direction, that's when the traffic light turns. So what would the timing differential be here? When there's no traffic, it turns green on North Drive so the people on North Drive can navigate their vehicles. Now, if you're talking about timing, you are going to get a backup on 413 because it wouldn't have cleared the traffic through the intersection. I mean, coming here tonight, when I made a left to come in here, there was no traffic coming in either way, which trips the light to go green in my direction. So I don't understand the timing situation. May make it worse if they were to time it in another fashion.
My understanding is that there's radar detection that's being upgraded as part of that, the Toll Brothers property.
There's some sort of tripwires underneath the roadway, which also triggers the weight of a car in that intersection, which dictates if the traffic is going to continue to go either way. I don't know. I've never seen, again, I live in a development of 1,751 homes. And just in my area alone, there's over 500 residents. I don't understand what the difference in the timing would accomplish, except making it worse.
Nevertheless, I think that what we were provided was accurate and something that I could get along with, I approve of it, so unless anybody else doesn't, and I guess we're going to find out in a minute.
I mean, they did receive their PennDOT, their highway occupancy permit from PennDOT as part of this application. Obviously, they've indicated, we had our traffic review letter. There's some items that they've indicated that they'll comply with as well. So.
But what does this development have to do with the timing?
There was just a question of.
But they're not, there's no light going to be out
No.
in front of them, so.
No. I think the question before was just how that whole corridor would work, yeah.
As part of the conditional use, we were asked to include in a resubmission to PennDOT a gap study. That's what Leanna is referring to. And then it's up to PennDOT to determine whether or not, with the consult of your own traffic engineer, whether or not that makes sense, and that's what Leanna just addressed.
Now, can I ask a question? When vehicles are exiting your development, they have the option to go left or right, correct?
Correct.
Because I think at one time it was only in one direction, and that caused.
There had been some suggestion previously
that would cause the conversation to come up that people were going to make U-turns on North Drive, but that's not going to happen because now they can make a right. They don't have to go, unless they're totally lost,
Right.
go and come back and go in the right direction.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah,
Mr.
Madam
Sander?
Chair, I've prepared a motion for the board's consideration. I would like to read that now and see if the board wishes to take action. If the board's of a mind, it would be a motion to grant preliminary and final plan approval for Durham Investment LP for the construction of a 10,000 square foot, one-story building to be used as a childcare facility and a 6,600 square foot, one-story building to operate as a combination of general offices and medical offices at 413 Durham Road, Newtown, PA, Bucks County Tax Parcel Number 29-3-17. The plans are entitled 413 Durham Road and consist of 19 sheets dated September 13th, 2024, last revised December 6, 2024, prepared by Holmes Cunningham, LLC. The plans will be approved as preliminary and final plans subject to the following conditions with which the applicant has already indicated it agrees. 1, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall revise the plans to comply with the comments set forth in the following review letters. A, Remington Vernick Engineers' second review letter dated January 14th, 2025. B, Remington Vernick Engineers' traffic review letter number 2 dated January 14th, 2025. And C, CKS Engineers' letter dated January 14th, 2025. 2, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall comply with all conditions of the conditional use decision dated April 24th, 2024. 3, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall comply with all conditions of highway occupancy permit number 061-20959 issued by PennDOT on March 13th, 2025. 4, prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project, the applicant shall pay a traffic impact fee of $219,891.60 to the township. 5, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall pay a fee in lieu of dedication of open space in the amount of $33,485.35 to the township. 6, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall enter into development, financial security, and stormwater O&M agreements with the township and shall post financial security in the form of cash or an irrevocable standby letter of credit to secure the completion of the proposed improvements. 7, prior to the signing of final plans and their being recorded, the applicant shall pay the township all outstanding fees and costs due for plan review. 8, and this is one I added based on our discussion tonight, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall obtain will-serve letters from the Newtown Bucks County Joint Municipal Authority and Newtown Artesian Water Company for sewer and water service respectively, and provide copies to the township. The Board of Supervisors hereby grants waivers from the following provisions of the Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance. Number 1, a waiver from Section 22-514.9 to allow parking areas closer than 20 feet to the outside wall of a building to allow parking no less than 10 feet from the outside wall of the building. 2, a waiver from Sections 22-530 and 22-531 to allow plant species not listed in the ordinance to be used as part of the landscaping on the property. 3, a waiver from Section 22-507.8.b from the requirement to provide deceleration lane lengths. And 4, a waiver from Section 22-511.b from the requirement to provide fire lane striping. And that is the extent of the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do we have a motion for preliminary and final land development for Durham Investments at 413 Durham Road?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
I'm sorry I didn't ask this question before about the plants, the waiver. Are these non-invasive species at least? I'm not sure who approved the list.
The answer is the staff has requested that we plant native species, and your current approved plant list does not include all native species. So we've agreed to plant the species that your staff has recommended, but which aren't listed today in the approved plant list.
So you got a list of native species from where?
I don't know.
From the EAC?
I don't know if even Liana knows, but it's,
Generally, DCNR will have the list of the,
Okay.
Is that an
so-
updated 2025 list? Because the regions have changed a little bit?
I know they've made some updates, I'm not sure on the exact dates, but generally you can get the approved species from them.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's Steve Keeley again. I just wanted to possibly straighten out any confusion that exists around the timing of this signal situation. It's what our plan was based on a very successful method that's in use on Route 31 in Pennington. As the traffic is metered going into the circle, the traffic circle, by lights, signal lights, above and north and south of the circle, as would be the case if we had the light on Wrightstown Road to the south of us and the one on North Drive north of us, metered so that every certain number of minutes, and that would be up to PennDOT, they would both turn red, stopping any traffic from coming into the area of the new development, and allow people to make left-hand turns into or out of the development. And it would only be done during the peak hours, as I said, between 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 and 6 p.m. And I think it would provide a very effective safety measure. And it's one of the things we requested PennDOT look at what we call the line of sight, excuse me, the line of sight of drivers and what they can see and perceive before they pull into a heavily traveled road like 413 is. So I hope that is acceptable, and we hope to hear from PennDOT. If I understood, I think we still are expecting an answer from PennDOT. Okay? Although I didn't hear that in the approval of the site, but do I
That's
understand
because
that correctly?
they already have a highway occupancy permit, but I'll let Leanna wants to make a comment.
No, that was it, just they have received their highway occupancy permit from PennDOT.
Yeah, but was that included in the?
It's already happened.
Yep.
It's already it's required by the review letters, and it's already checked off. It's happened already. We don't have to condition it on them getting it because they already have it.
Okay, but I don't understand. Did that include the timing of the signals?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Right, so nobody has spoken to PennDOT regarding the type of thing you're talking about, where there's two red lights to protect this area. I believe I'm trying to get an idea what you're talking about, but it seems to me nobody has spoken to PennDOT about it.
I think that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I think as part of the traffic study that would be provided to our office and to PennDOT included analysis of that light. So
Okay.
that PennDOT did look at the timing of that light.
Well, you're talking about the timing of the light. He's talking about something a little bit different, I believe,
Yeah, I'm
the
talking.
way he described it. But in any case, I don't think any discussion of what you're talking about happened with PennDOT.
That's a good point, and we made an effort to talk to PennDOT. When I say we, the the Homeowners Association Board of Delancey Court, and PennDOT said that they don't want to deal with the public. They would rather deal with a government body such as the Board of Supervisors.
Well, we'll see when the first accident happens, who's going to
Well, that's
talk
what
to
I hope.
whom.
We don't have to wait for that.
Yeah.
Ms. Calubro, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just one last comment. I think it would mean quite a bit to PennDOT if the Board of Supervisors registered their concern for the safety out there.
I believe that has been done. I believe that whole process has been done, as
Right.
you say, and we have received their final word. and we are happy with the conditions that they have put upon it, and we feel it's going to be safe. Hopefully, you will find out that they were right, it's going to be safe. Me personally, looking at the plans, I don't have any questions, any further questions, as far as the safety is concerned. I'm satisfied, personally, me personally. I can't speak for everyone.
Okay, but I think you're saying that they are satisfied with the conditions as they are, as opposed to not implementing the registering or the metering of the traffic.
I believe that's true.
Well, okay,
If
that's what we're concerned about, all right?
If, excuse me, if in the future, excuse me, if in the future we need to make an adjustment, lights can always be retimed to.
Oh, sure.
Yes, it would just
somewhat.
involve a request to PennDOT.
So there's still that.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, I don't think, to retime the lights if it becomes necessary, but we're trying to
Right.
avoid that having to be done after the first or of several accidents that may occur, that's all. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
All right. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Did I have a motion?
Did we have a motion in a second?
Yeah,
We have a
so it was
motion and a second.
I was the second.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the final development of the 413 property, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Solicitor.
I'm back on. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask the board to consider a motion to authorize me to sign some tax settlement stipulations regarding Pembroke Brandywine LLC, MCD3 LLC, and 5 separate parcels from the Newtown Village Plaza Associates LP. I will note that the net tax revenue to the township will, as a result of all of those settlements, will be a positive $45,527.16. So if appropriate, it would be a motion to authorize me to sign those stipulations.
Okay, do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion from the board?
I have a question. Can you explain that a little more to me? I'm not
Yes.
sure
Yes,
why that all
thank you.
came about.
Well, in 2 of the cases, the landowner filed a tax assessment appeal, and the rulings were initially made by the Board of Assessment. They were appealed to court, and instead of going through litigation, the parties agreed to settle those cases. The other 5 for Newtown Village Plaza were initiated by the school district. The school district filed appeal saying that the assessment wasn't high enough. The Board of Assessment made a ruling, it went to court, and they settled on those, and we've got a tax increase on those.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, sounds awesome. Any other questions from the board?
And it all nets out to 46 or
40 45,500 plus.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the solicitor to sign the real estate tax assessment appeal, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes our report.
Okay. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. General fund balance this evening is $6,615,813. Plan expirations before the board with no action required. This evening, we have Chief Hearn to give his monthly chief's report. Evening, Chief.
Evening, sir. Good evening, board members. March 2025 police report. We documented 2,435 calls for service. We documented 21,500 miles on our patrol fleet. For the month of March, we had 16 arrests and clearances, 2 for assault, which were domestic related, 2 thefts, 3 narcotics, 1 for fleeing and eluding police, 4 warrants, fugitive out of jurisdiction, 1 weapons violation, 1 computer false reports, and 2 DUIs. There were 17 new cases referred to detectives with 3 crime scenes processed. We had 59 crashes for the month of March. 153 citations were issued and 191 warnings were issued. There were 2 truck enforcement details with the task force, resulting in 27 truck inspections, 1 citation, 12 warnings, 9 vehicles were placed out of service, and 1 vehicle was towed. Notable jobs, I provided commendatory letters to 2 of our officers, Officer Vasali and Police Officer Gergel, and result of March 15th at 3:41 a.m., they've engaged in a foot pursuit of 2 males, one for theft from autos in Lower Makefield Township, where we went over and supported them. The apprehension was made. The male apprehended had prior arrests for such crimes. Public service announcements. Fraud is continuing, particularly on the elderly. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Protect your identity. Put your mail inside the post office. Please pay attention to your parents, your grandparents, and your elderly neighbors. And your phone solicitations, do not give out your personal information or banking information over the phone to people to call you directly. Speak to your children also about not posting inappropriate pictures of themselves online or texting it to their friends. We have seen an increase in that as well. A couple special events coming up on May 12th. We have our Classic Cars, Cops, and Coffee event at Veterans Park from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. On May 19th at 7 p.m. is the Police Memorial Service for the 16 Bucks County law enforcement officers who gave their life and the line of duty while performing in Bucks County. And on April 26th this month, we have our National Drug Take-Back Day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be in our parking lot, so if you have unwanted prescriptions, you may drop them off. Just one final note regarding Mr. Mack's question regarding Woods of Saxony and Country Bend development. I've had numerous conversations with the president and CEO, or the president of that HOA over there. He wanted to ban trucks from that development. That's local deliveries. That's not going to happen. He's now requesting speed bumps or speed humps in that development. That's referred to the Department of Public Works as well as the Township Board for further review. But I believe it would slow emergency response down and create other problems for plowing and snow removal and that type of stuff. We will continue to enforce strategic enforcement over there based on what we see and what we observe. And our decoy cars and our police enforcement measures will continue over that way. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Chief, thank you for getting back to me, answering some questions. I know that after talking to them, the speed humps are not practical, but still, don't forget Country Bend. I know you've in the past had installed some lights on, some speed indicator light on a pole there, and in a recent email to me, you told me that these are do not function. They're not fully functional because of the low battery life. And, you know, I'm looking at what the borough is doing. They're celebrating Christmas over there, but they have on Washington Avenue, as you know, a pole dedicated with one of those speed indicator lights that are solar powered.
Yes, sir.
And I think you mentioned to me could cost around $10,000 each.
I'm projecting it to be approximately $10,000.
Now, as I mentioned, these 2 neighborhoods I think are unique in that people zoom through them to get somewhere else. They're not driving locally, they're just trying to use it as a shortcut. And they speed. To enable a shortcut, you have to speed. And that's what they're doing. And I know you have decoy cars, and I know you have that trailer with the speed indicator, but they can't be deployed for an extended period of time, which may be necessary in these 2 developments to really get people aware of how fast they are driving and that you are paying attention to it. Who knows? Maybe they think that sign delivers some more information about, you know, like a photograph of the car or whatever. That would be great, but I know it doesn't. But if we were able to do what the borough does, this stinky little borough has at least 2 of these I have noticed, okay, the hole in the donut can afford it, and they can have Christmas enforcing pedestrian safety. I think the township could afford that at some point, and I'm going to fully support that. Of course, I won't be here next year, but you'll have my support going forward, at least to the end of the year. Thank you.
Ron, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, Chief, a real quick question. I see on here you have total crashes 59. And I think you've explained once before that there's really no true determination on what a crash may be. I mean, it sounds horrible. It sounds like the cars are totaled, but is it true that a minor bumper to bumper is also considered a crash?
Yes, the crashes are broken down into reportable and non-reportable. Reportable requires towing and/or injuries. Non-reportable is a minor bumper-to-bumper collision. Out of them 59 crashes, 15 were reportable, requiring towing and/or injuries, and 25 were non-reportable.
So they could have been fender benders.
That's correct, sir.
But just a crash sounds so.
That's the terminology used by the state.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that we're trying to jumpstart the process of building a new police building. So next week, we're going to meet with our state senator, and we're going to bring our strongest tool in the shed, which is the chief, to personally speak to how much we need a new police headquarters here. And hopefully, maybe he'll be able to help, and hopefully, sometime within the next year, we can start building a new headquarters for the police. If anybody went in there to look, it's sort of like 1970s, 1980s in there. There's nothing that is state-of-the-art. So we want to give them that so they can do their job properly. So cross fingers that our senator will be able to help us. Okay, any other questions for the chief? Or I was it? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Sat down, yes.
I have
He
one
does.
other item under our
Yes.
report for the board's consideration.
He said.
Please recall that we did receive multiple responses to the RFQs that were issued for video production. It's my understanding that the preferred vendor is Foster Digital. The appropriate motion would be consideration to appoint Foster Digital for AV production services.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Is this saving us any money or on our current rates?
Foster was slightly less inexpensive than the current vendor, yes.
Is that the reason why we're going with them, or were there other reasons? Is it, anybody have any?
Well, having solicited the RFQs, the Foster Digital has recommendations from three other municipal, municipalities, and they're very glowing letters of recommendation, and it's the fact that Foster Digital works with townships. That's kind of what swayed me, as well as there was probably a 10 or 20% reduction in the cost per hour.
I would like to say that we're going to vote on this now, but we thank Video Gold for their years of service with the township, and they've done a really good job, and we wish them well. I think a majority thought it was time for a change, so that is the reason that we're doing this. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the board?
There will be a transition period from one provider to...
Between this meeting and next meeting, yes.
Okay.
Any discussion from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of considering the appointment of Foster Digital for AV production services, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes 3-2.
That's all we have under our report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Which brings us to our next round of public comment. That would be for items on the agenda, correct? Right? Not on the agenda. Thanks. I'll get it someday. Anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to other business. Does anyone have any other business?
Yes. You had mentioned that there's going to be a discussion with the state senator, and I don't know if it's also the state representative in regards to the new police building. I think all the board should be involved in that, which I would suggest it should be a work session of which both these elected officials should come before us to present what they are going to present. Because as a board, we should be informed of what is going on. It should not be one or two members of the board having a conversation with a senator and a state representative. So my suggestion is that we schedule a work session of which they are to show up and give us these reports.
And we could certainly do that in the future. We're just asking for them to look out for grant opportunities for us. That's basically all we're asking for. So, again, if that happens and if we can get that, then of course we will do as you just said.
Well, who is going to sit with them to discuss the possibility of getting grants?
Well, we're going to, the chief and Mr. Fisher and I are going to sit and lay out.
So we have to take, no offense, we have to take the word of yourself and Mr. Fisher being at this particular meeting, of which none of us are there, to hear what the conversation was. I just don't think that's a form of transparency. To have just two individuals speak about a major situation of building a new police building, and none of us are going to have the opportunity to question these people at that particular time. I don't think, we talk about transparency all the time, but when only two individuals are having the conversation, that's not a form of transparency. That's basically a closed meeting. And I hate to use the term Mr. Mack always uses, but a backdoor type of meeting of which we should all be included in this, not just two individuals.
I kind of agree, but if there's more than two people, it's a public meeting. So your idea of a work session,
Yes, sir.
where whatever was going to be laid out before Mr. Santasero would be laid out in public, and we would be able to ask questions regarding what's being laid out, but you're going to ask Mr. Santasero to make some promises at a public meeting?
No
promises,
promises.
just discussion.
No, he's going to have a whole crew of people just listening, people that aren't necessarily in the room in his Newtown office, people that are in Harrisburg. So it's very, very preliminary. We're just going to put it out there that in the future we are looking to build this. We are not asking for promises. We are asking him to look out for anything that might help us in the future. That's simply it. And coming from the chief, he will be able to put it into words better than I could. And that's simply it. There's no thought of it being hidden or not in public or not transparent. Any further step would, of course, include everybody.
But it's not being held in public. It's being held privately.
Well,
I don't understand what the reason is that this cannot be a work session.
isn't it my understanding that we already have a proposal for building a new police building. We have not seen it officially yet. I think we should have a work session to look over that proposal, get it presented to the Board of Supervisors so that we can have questions about what's in that proposal.
There's no proposal. The board got basically a building study that shows you the cost of what those buildings now currently cost. That's
It
all.
wasn't put out for requests for proposals?
The building? No.
Never approved to be done.
No, building a new police building will come along with a lot of other approvals, including hiring bond counsel, taking out loans, doing RFPs for architects, engineers, contractors. There's a slew of other proposals. What the board currently has is a building study proposal from an architect to sort of program how much the township needs to plan for financially for a project like this.
Okay, so we haven't seen that.
No, you have that.
We have
Yes.
it.
You've had
You
that
all
for,
sent it.
We've
yes.
seen that a few years ago.
It wasn't discussed at a work session, is what I'm saying, and maybe, we have questions that should be discussed maybe at a work session, so we all get to know what we're thinking about that proposal, whatever it is.
My question is, does it matter which goes first? And no disrespect is taken. And I totally understand your point. If the board wants to have a work session first, we can have the work session first. But, just know that if we do have a meeting with somebody, only two of us can be there. So.
Well, not at a work session.
Not a work
Office.
work session does solve that,
There's
yes.
nothing voted on,
Yes.
it's a conversation, people have I don't know how many of you have ever been on a work session.
It's been a while.
Kyle, you've been on work sessions, haven't you?
A couple,
I've been
long
on,
time ago.
I've been on many of them when boards used to have work sessions, and we would discuss things informally. There was no vote. It was an informal conversation with either a developer, or in this case, it could be our state representatives, and we could question them. Instead of having just two people go there, all of us could be involved in this conversation. And that's all I'm asking. And I don't know why Senator Sanacero or Representative Perry would not want to be here and discuss it with us. Because if they're going to discuss it with two people, then they have to discuss it with another two people, then the final supervisor. We're being redundant. Have them come here, a meeting, it's not televised, so they're not going to be on television. We're not going to ask for any kind of guarantees or promises, but we're going to ask for information. And that's all I'm requesting, that it be held within a work session, of which, no, we're not violating any sunshine laws, because a work session is something that we can and should have.
I wouldn't want to ask him to come to something that he knows nothing about for reasons he doesn't understand. But
Who?
Senator Sancero, he's got a whole crew of people.
Senator Sancero has been a supervisor, a state rep, and now a state senator.
This is
And
the
to
way
make
he
the
preferred to
assumption
do
that-
it, but
that
if you'd
he
like
would
me to
not-
cancel it, I will cancel
I'm
it.
not saying can't, ask him to come to a work session.
Let's look at an example. An example would be that bridge over the creek where we had the Creaky Commission, the Creaky people come in here and give us an idea of what they're proposing, and we discussed it, blah, 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 blah. And then that's when after that, Sanacero and other politicians got involved to get the grant. Once we put in an application, for a grant. And that's when they
Is
got
that when you
involved.
met with Mr. Sanacero by yourself and went over that?
No,
In the backdoor
no.
negotiations?
No.
Okay.
But we were at I'm trying to support your notion to have a
It
work
was
session.
It was a work session. It was, It was discussed here with the Creek Coalition, or as the Creeky people, as you call them. And we discussed it and went over everything. Then it was presented to maybe Mr. Santicero.
Right.
And the state representative, and they took it upon themselves to apply for grants. But none of us sat in a room with them
Right.
individually and discussed it. It was all discussed at a work session and then presented to the...
So that's what I'm using as an example.
Yeah,
Is
well,
that okay
what I'm
with-
saying is,
Is that what you're
I
suggesting?
don't know why the senator would not want to come to a work session. We're not putting him on the spot. We're just, as a board, want to have a conversation with our elected official about this.
I would just have concerns about their availability and traveling.
Well, then
and
they
such and
have to
such.
make the availability, John. We elected these people, they represent us, and I think that's why maybe we're favoring them because they're Democrats. I have no idea.
Maybe with the new,
But I'd like to know if they were Republicans, they would like to come here too. Let's not play parties here
What are you
and say
talking about? They
favoritism.
are our representatives.
Exactly, they are our representatives. They're not just you and Mr. Fisher's representative.
What
So,
difference does it make what party they're from?
But
that's
maybe
what I'm
with,
saying. What's the difference? Why can't you ask him to show up? Why?
Well, I can certainly ask,
they
but
are-
that's not
they are-
how he wanted to do
They
it.
are in Harrisburg for 3 days out of the week.
Can
So I don't, they're not traveling from Washington or anything like that. So come on, let's not be
Well,
ridiculous.
that's
When
not
is
true.
when is
Their
the next
crew-
work schedule?
half his crew is in Harrisburg. They all Zoom in from different places
Then
to
he must
listen.
he must be a bad manager if he can't get his people to come to a
Cancel.
meeting.
well, maybe with the new audiovisual
No,
people, we could zoom in.
Ms.
We
Snyder
could
is
have them
saying,
zoom
Ms.
in.
Snyder is saying, let's cancel it. So now she's like, let's not be a baby about this.
No,
Let's
what-
ask the senator to come to a meeting,
To a work session. When is the next work session scheduled?
Monday.
This coming Monday?
We have an EAC meeting, so
Or is it
That's
the
more
20
important than a board.
Or is it the
um,
21st? Is it-
I don't think giving Senator Santicero a couple days' notice is, for Monday, is the way to do it.
Oh, yeah, it is. I see.
Do you
It's on
think
the
it
agenda.
is? Can you come here Monday? Is that what you're saying?
Monday is the next work session.
If he
Okay,
could- if he
Monday
could make
is
it,
the
we'll-
next EAC.
There's a scheduled
We
work
canceled
session.
the EAC meeting last week in order to have it this coming Monday.
Well, they shouldn't be scheduled on the same day then.
Well,
can
because we
work-
didn't have a work session.
We can work around the time.
Well, I don't even know if he's available, so it's
don't-
kind of
I
a
don't
moot
either.
point. He took an hour, he said, I'm available at this hour. And
Right.
I said, okay. Didn't think there was one thing wrong with it.
I guess
still
the, I
don't.
guess the constituency of Newtown Township isn't important to him that he can make a meeting.
Well, he has other things on his schedule, but
I'm glad you two can speak for Mr. Santicero and
Yes,
and make the determining factor if he could show or not.
it took
Okay.
many months to get him to give us an hour of his time to get on the
Well,
schedule.
well, Gee, thanks a lot. I'm so happy.
Okay,
That he
can do
okay,
this.
Mr. Calabro.
so is the
Yeah.
We'll have it your
consensus,
way.
the consensus is we wait to have a work session with them.
Yeah. That
Is that
could
the
be,
consensus?
that could be weeks, that could be months. I don't know when that's going to be. If that's what the
I-
board wants, then that's
I
what
don't
we'll do.
understand, is this new police building going to be built next week? No. Okay, thank you. So is time of the essence here, or do we have time to set up a meeting with the elected officials? Thank you.
I think we've waited a long time to start this project, and
The project isn't even started.
that's right. And that's why it's so important to make a move, to do something.
Well,
If you don't agree, then I'll cancel the meeting, and that's that. I'll ask him about a work session, I'll see what he says, I'll see what his schedule entails, or if he even thinks that's the way to go, or a good idea, I'll ask him. That's all I can do.
well, it's also to his benefit if it's a good idea or not. I mean,
Well, he doesn't even know what,
I don't want to throw fuel onto the fire, but I think before you approach the senators and so on, we should know more about the plan that was submitted, whatever was submitted to the police department. I mean, and be able amongst ourselves to talk about it and ask the questions. Maybe the people who submitted this proposal, whatever it is, would attend the work session, so we learn more about it, and then we can decide how to approach getting the money for it through the senator. I think you have to take one step at a time.
Well, we did, you do acknowledge that we did receive copies of the study.
I know, but we
Okay.
haven't sat down together and discussed it in an open session, open to the public,
Agreed.
where we can ask questions about it and where the public can learn about more
Agreed.
about what may or may not be on the table. And it's their representatives also that we're going to ask to do work for this. So, you know, it would be,
I think we have our answer,
what's the answer?
that we'll wait for a work session.
But you're talking about waiting
Mr.
for
Mack is saying we
them.
could have a work session prior to that.
That's right.
To
We're not-
discuss this situation. And you're right, the public should be involved, because I'm assuming it's going to be their money we're spending. So I think they should be involved in this, because it's going to probably, maybe, I hate to say this, involve a tax increase to pay for this building.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't it be a public meeting? Again, a work session is a public meeting of discussion. And why shouldn't they be involved in this discussion?
They should.
Well, things have changed. Things have changed, and it's going to take a while for him to look for grants. So we certainly didn't think there was any problem in asking him to keep his eye out for, and tell us a time, a year, a month, whatever, when we should come back to look for grants for this. So we would have something to work from.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a work session where we can discuss what we currently have from a builder regarding their, whatever it is about the police department building, what the police chief would like in a building, and our ability so that we can also ask questions and get answers in a public forum. That's my motion.
Well, Mr. Mack, you don't have to make a motion, because we are scheduled for work sessions.
Monday.
They just have to be approved and say,
Not
and not
Monday.
canceled.
Okay. Is only one work session a month? You can't?
One work session a month. It's the week in between the two meetings that we have televised. That's how it's been for,
Yep.
how long has this township been in effect here? Since 1800s? That's how long it's
Well,
been.
then, well, I make a motion not to cancel that meeting, whatever a motion is. Don't we have to decide, or is it just consensus?
So I think it's the chair's prerogative.
It's what?
I think it's the chair's prerogative,
Is that true? Is that right?
I think. But if I was chair, I'd want to be
Mr. Solicitor?
back
It's
by the
it's a
board.
scheduled meeting. If the chair wishes to place an agenda item on that meeting, you'll get notice that the meeting is on and that what the agenda item is. But it is the chair's prerogative to set the agenda for that meeting.
And in the past, we've had agendas of just one item, because that was a topic of discussion.
So I think it's going to take a little bit of time, because we have to find out who we want to come to that meeting, unless the chief has an idea of who he wants to, the company wants to build, or,
We're not
Well,
there yet.
I think Mr. Mack is not insinuating that the senator has to be at this
no, I'm not
next
talking
one.
about him. He can't come Monday. I mean,
And
we have to look at
any
his
company
schedule.
that submitted a plan of any sort should be very willing at the last minute to come to a meeting, because it means money to them, perhaps.
We're talking about tens of millions of dollars here. I mean, hopefully the state senator can get us not hundreds of thousands, but millions. I mean, we're not talking about a small project here. So has he given any indication of what a dollar amount would be? He doesn't have to know the project, just has to know how much it would cost to build a new building. And
No.
we're not talking about building a Toll Brothers house. We're talking about building a major construction here.
He has no idea about the scope of the building that we want to build for the police, none whatsoever.
And I have no
Do we have
idea
a
about the scope either.
Do we have a cost factor, and what was it?
I believe it's around 20 million.
20 million. There you go, there's a number for
That's
it,
what
20
that's what I
million.
think I remembered too.
Yeah, we saw this about 2 or 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, it was,
Isn't that long
I
ago?
believe Kurt Ferguson was the manager of that.
No.
What was it? Yeah,
More
okay,
recently.
I stand corrected.
I think it was 2023.
Well, then it's higher than 20 million now.
I don't know. That's why it was trying to ask him to keep his eye out in the future for grants that might help us. But, seeming an innocent request is not seen that way here. Okay, we won't have that meeting, and we'll try to arrange with his schedule to see if he's available, or if he needs more details, or what he needs in order to schedule a meeting here as a work session.
But you keep emphasizing scheduling a meeting with him, whereas we want to schedule
Okay,
a meeting.
I meant a work session with him.
We want to schedule a work session just to discuss. I seen this 2 or 3 years ago. I'm sure all of us could have a refreshment of what it is. And I think from what Mr. Mack is saying, is to have a work session to discuss what we've seen prior. And
Right,
then,
we
once
don't
we
need
get
the
that
senator
idea,
here for
we
that.
could contact the senator. I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
We don't need the senator here for that. In fact, we need to be better, more prepared to approach him and tell him what we're looking for. And, we need to advise you, if you're going to meet with him personally.
Well, we have the
need to
plans.
advise you about what our consensus is regarding this building, but I don't know enough about it. I haven't asked all the questions, and I don't like this idea of, one-on-one asking questions and getting answers one-on-one without the public getting involved at some point, basically. So that's what I think a work
course.
session should be about. It shouldn't be about having the senator here. It should be about having the proposal in front of us and having the company that presented that proposal, whatever it is, explain the proposal, and with the circles and arrows in the back and all that, and, we'll be happy. That's what I think. Just saying.
Okay, meeting is canceled.
What meeting's canceled?
What meeting's canceled?
The meeting between, that
Oh, okay. What about the work session?
well, I don't know. I have to ask him about his availability. Oh,
We're
we
not
have
inviting him
okay.
to the work
No, I got
session.
you. I have to ask the chief. The chief has to supply those answers about whether he has an architect in mind, or, what he needs from us in order to proceed.
The chief is here right now.
I see
Chief,
him. I'm looking at him. I'm talking to him.
So what can we do by Monday is, I guess,
I want to thank the board at least for entertaining this. I didn't want to create this much aggravation. It's taxpayers' money, so it is important for the taxpayers to be involved. Elected officials, they chunk in $1 million or $1.5 million, $2 million maybe for a project like this, but it is chump change based on the schematic of the size of the scope that we're looking to do. The study that we did was a draft study only to determine if we needed a building. That project came back that we do need a building because the building is built in 1988, was built as not as a police station, it was built as an office building. There are size and space concerns, there are accreditation concerns, there are safety concerns that have to be addressed. It's not worth putting good money in the bad. That's why the proposal was made for a new building. The bottom line is, I would do your work session, plan it accordingly. If the senator's available, he shows up. If he doesn't, at least the public knows what's going on, and be done with it.
Is there an architect that you were thinking of?
I don't recommend architects. It's got to go out for RFPs and proposals for
okay.
development. The architect that actually gave us the study is KCBA or KCBM or something like that. We paid them $15,000 to do the study.
Where are they located?
I haven't the faintest idea. It was put out for bid.
I guess I have to look at it. They must have put an address on there.
Yeah, I stand by.
No, that's all right. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, you put me on the spot anytime you want. Looks like they're out of Hatfield. KCBA Architects Incorporated,
The bottom,
8 East Broad Street in Hatfield, PA.
bottom line is they're not under contract anymore. They were paid out. They provided the
I
study.
understand it. So they would charge us money to come here?
Probably.
Well, the chief knows all about it, and we probably don't need them here, but Chief made some mentions about accreditation issues and other issues. I'd like to know more about that, and I think we should have that, why is it, what exactly does it need in a police building, and go over some of the details of the study, which the chief knows all about. So basically, I think only the chief needs to be here, and
Well,
anybody else you feel is necessary.
I would hope our administration would be here.
Who, what?
I would wish that the township manager be available.
That would be a good idea.
Yes.
Mr. Manager, can this go through CoStars, you know? You have any idea? Like fire building might?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those are the kind of questions we can ask at the work session
There
on
you
Monday
go.
between ourselves and the public.
Bring whatever, try to set one up, bring whatever you can. Won't be for this Monday.
I'm at the purview of the board. Let me know when you want to have it, and I'll be here.
Okay. So forget everything I said about the meeting
Well,
on the
then I
15th.
guess the work session would have to be for May, because there's work session once a month, unless you call a special session. So we'll have to wait a month.
I'll be in Europe, being insulted by Europeans.
Well, we can insult you, John, if that's what you want. Make you feel at home.
You're tariff, no good.
We can bring, members of the Borough Sewer Authority to hear it for you. No. Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you. We'll let you know. We'll let you know. Okay. Any other business? Seeing none, hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting.